Hello, everybody. This is Jake Sanzino, host of Jake and Gino podcast here with my co-host, the multifamily mentor, the coach, chef, the father, six, the best-selling author, the G Daddy in the Hawaiian shirt, Gino Barber. Gino, how's it going?
Jake, I'm doing good, brother. How you doing, my friend?
Always making it happen, big man. Big show today. Today's guest is the world's leading expert in customer onboarding. Man, we need this. For more than 2 decades, she's helped high-growth startups and established enterprises transform new and existing customers into loyal champions. Awooga. I love that. So, without further ado, Donna Weber, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much. It's just a real pleasure and a privilege to be here today with you both.
She's using Chick-fil-A buzzwords. Gino, I tell you, it's going to be a good show already. It is our pleasure to have you here. So let's get this kicked off. Share with us your background and how you got started in business.
Well, let's see. First of all, I'm based in California, Northern California, and I've been working with high-tech startups for most of my career. And, in the world of technology, I was working with companies where they'd always focus on the product. They often think that it's all about the product, or they focus on the sales and the marketing engine. And I was always the one raising my hand going, hello, what about our customers? Because the reality is growth happens after the initial sale, especially when you have a subscription business. And so I've been the one always looking after the customers, whether it's getting them enabled, whether it's getting them to value, and onboarding is a key so that they don't churn in the first 60, 90 days.
Donna, before we jump into the 6 steps and all of the different tools you have in the onboarding matters, give us a couple horror stories, 1 or 2 horror stories of how it really can go bad for a company. Jake was sharing, he was almost going to start punching me through the screen. I was talking about a certain company that he was talking about. But this can be very detrimental because for me, I had a restaurant for over 20 years and I had no customer onboarding, no experience. And then when I met Jake, we got into the restaurant and into the real estate business, and we had 1,500 apartment units within 5 years. We understood something about the customer and the experience and the journey. And I was the mom and pop out there with the restaurant for 20 years. We didn't answer the phone the same way. We didn't drop off the check the same way. We didn't greet people the same way.
Hey,
we didn't pack
the
food
Chicky
the
Parm
same
was
way.
always the same, though, Gino. You had that right. So.
Well, it's the only thing. But think about the customer. The experience is always different, and the training was different. Do you have a couple of stories that you can share with the guests to say, hey, don't do this. This is what this company did, and it just didn't end well for them?
Well, absolutely. So, for example, I was working with a company in Finland, a small startup that provides software for website developers. So, this is technology, but what was happening was there's this role called customer success managers, and they're all about like shepherding the customers to making sure that they get value and that they stick around. And those customer success managers were just focused on the renewal, which was happening in a year. And so they were reaching out at the last 90 days going, hey, how's it going? And by then, what we found out was we ran some of the numbers. We found out that 53% of customers were churning in the first 90 days. And 30% of those were churning in the first 30 days. Churning means they're leaving. They're not coming back. They've canceled their payments. And so, we said, hey, we need to engage the customers at the beginning of the customer journey, not wait and kind of reach out and hope that they figured everything out and just go, hey, how's it going? That doesn't work. So it's really about delivering value. It doesn't have to always be exactly the same as you were saying, Gino, at the restaurant, but I'm sure you treated customers with care and made sure that they were leaving feeling like they had a good meal.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things, Donna, that I think that Jake and I think I struggle with in the real estate business is a lot of tenants, residents, they leave sometimes not knowing why they're mad. And I'll give you an example. They've been in an apartment for a year. After 8 months, that leaky faucet is still leaking, damn it. But they don't call the property manager to fix it. It just sits there. And maybe by onboarding and part of that process with the review and the expand, we can reach out to that person proactively and say, hey, is everything going well? Oh yeah, by the way, Jake, my faucet's leaking. There's where I think we can
It's
really...
got to be through text too, because a lot of this generation doesn't want to actually speak to you. They need the soft, subtle text message behind the screen, right? That's where their comfort level is.
Don't you think that's important though? Because a lot of the vast majority of people who don't, reapply or stay in an apartment complex is because of customer service. And it's not something that Jake did wrong or Gino did wrong. We didn't know that faucet was leaky, and the resident doesn't reach out and say, hey, by the way. I think the onboarding process can really help that out. What do you think about
Well,
that?
it's all about providing transparency and communication and building trust. And that's where the neuroscience comes in, which we'll dive into. But
Mhm.
for example, if I can tell of a recent story myself, people want to know who's got the ball, where we've been, where we're going, where are we? So, for
Mhm.
example, I recently went through the process of selecting a solar panel vendor. And I researched, I analyzed, my husband created spreadsheets, and we talked to 3 different vendors. We picked one, we paid our deposit, and then we just sat there in the dark.
What's going
Like,
on? Where
what's
are we in the
going on? Like,
process?
we
Are you
paid you, we
shipping it?
picked you. Yeah, we picked
Oh,
you.
I
And
hate
also,
that.
also in California, there's these big deadlines. They're changing the regulations. So there's a looming deadline, and we're just sitting around waiting. And so there's some very simple things that you can do to help create that communication, that transparency, and that accountability that builds trust. So, for example, simple visuals just to show, hey, you've signed. This is what's going to happen. I'm going to introduce you to Jake, who's going to do this and that. This is our time frame. Here's where we're going and why. Simple things. Adding a because at the end of a sentence, research shows really adds a lot of value. Just we're going to do this because you won't hear from us for a week because just tell me what's going on. In our world of consumerism, I know if I order something on Amazon or most anywhere, I get notifications. Hey, the product's just been shipped. It's on the truck. It's in Des Moines, Iowa. It's on the way to your house. It's arriving today between 2 and 4 p.m. We get that transparency. I order a pizza. Hey, the pizza's going in the oven and Gino's driving it over to you. So we
They even
get
got the
that
GPS
transparency.
tracker showing you where they are these days. It's nuts. And the thing
It
is,
is
for me
nuts.
as a consumer, as long as you're communicating, I won't even read your communication. It just gives me peace of mind that you're reaching out saying something's happening. So I'm good. I'll back
Yeah.
off. But if I don't hear from you and you're ghosting me, and it's been a month or two, there's a problem there. So
Yeah. So what happens is our brains, we ruminate. So we go, if it's a recent purchase, we have buyer's remorse and we ruminate and we start creating stories. And when we create stories in our heads, they're usually not good stories.
mine are terrible.
they're,
Everyone's
they're
trying to F
usually,
me. They're all stealing. I'm going to come get them with like spears and Jon Snow stuff, cutting off heads.
yeah, they're usually worst case
Seriously.
scenarios. And that's
Yeah.
no way to start a new relationship. So, you get a new tenant moving in, you give them a procedure here. This is how you contact us if anything happens. This is the turnaround time. You might have a service level agreement for what the turnaround times or an escalation process is. So everyone knows what's happening. That you define like a foundation for how you're going to have a relationship. And when I work with companies, what I do is I provide them a success plan so that when they start with a new company, they create a success plan. So they've defined the goals and the objectives, who's responsible for what, and how they're going to work together, and an escalation plan. And I do that with my clients as well. So, I am the salesperson and I am also the person doing the delivery. So even though I'm often talking with the same person, before the deal is closed, afterwards, I'm often working with their whole team. And I can't guarantee that the buyer has told the team how we're going to work together and even why. I've gotten into trouble because the buyer never even told the team what we were doing and why. And so I slow down. A big part of it is slowing down and helping people understand this is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it. This is how we're going to do it.
But
And this is where we're
once you're
going.
communicating like that, they probably ease up too. But let me ask you a real question. Be completely honest with me. You think the solar company's stealing from you?
No.
I think they might be, Donna. I want to look into it because I don't trust them now.
No,
The trust is gone.
eventually hear from them, but and then
You
also
get your solar
recently,
panels yet?
well, that's a whole nother thing. It ends up
Exactly.
our
They're
roof.
stealing. I told
No,
you.
our roof doesn't support it. We couldn't go forward with it, which is very disappointing. But I also recently purchased a house, so I've been living in this house here for less than a year. And the real estate agent, I never knew what was going on. Great,
Yeah, but
they've
they
accepted
didn't
our
know either.
offer.
They didn't know
Nobody,
either, though.
nobody told me what's going on. What's the timeline? What are all the things we need to
The real
do?
estate agent just signed up. They got into it because the market was up. They're already out of the game. Okay, this is how it
No,
works.
she was a
Donna.
veteran. I
Just messing
like to
with
know.
you.
I like to know what's the plan ahead. I like to have. I'm the one in my relationship with my husband. Well, hey, what's the plan for the week? What are we eating each night? What are we doing next weekend? I like to have a plan. And the simple thing is to create a simple visual so you don't overwhelm people. And it can be, go onto canva.com. It's free. You can create
I've
some
heard of
really
this thing.
simple.
Our team talks about it. I don't know what it is.
It's really
Is it
fun.
a
You got to
place
check
or
it out.
is it a website? Is it
Yeah, it's where you can
ChatGPT-4?
create like visuals. You don't need a graphic designer. You just go and like play around. They have all these templates.
Ah.
And you could just go and create a simple
So it's
like journey.
Photoshop.
It's not Photoshop. It's way easier than Photoshop. But you could just go there and
Spray
create a
can.
simple visual and help put people's minds at ease, because people process visuals much more quickly and easily than, if you give them a whole long list of things, that just overwhelms.
Don, as you can see, Jake and I have a little bit of problems with big words. You use the word ruminate. In the book, you
Yes.
also use cognitive closure.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about that, because part of the
Ruminate's what you used to
neuroscience.
put on the chicky parm, right, Gino? You used to put a little ruminate on there, right?
You see what I'm saying? I mean, we need a little help here. Cognitive closure. Let's talk about that, because that's important as part of the neuroscience.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Gino. So the thing with what happens is we create these stories, and we're just going to keep spinning on them unless there's a break, there's a closure, there's an idea of what happens next. And so that's where the cognitive closure is like the braking mechanism, which says we're done with the buyer journey, and here's the customer journey. And oftentimes as a buyer, we're working with sales reps who are great at building trust, right? They're great at building relationships. They're very personable, and then the deal closes, and then we don't hear from them. We just are sitting there waiting around, wondering what happens next. So then you need to tell the customers, tell the clients, tell the investors, tell the tenants, this is where you are. This is what happens next. This is where we're going together and why.
I love that. And in the book, you say customer onboarding has to address fear, remorse, and regret that your buyers might have. Let's expand upon that a little, because that's really important as far as when somebody's making a purchase. They already have that cognitive dissonance. Did I make the mistake? Did I do something right? And you're there to tell them, no, you didn't. Let's move forward.
That was a big word you used there, dissonance.
You like that, Jake? Huh?
Not
bad.
He's a
3
dissident.
syllables.
All right.
Well, yeah. So the buyer's remorse, about 80% of all purchases, people can dwell in buyer's remorse, and it's not as big.
80% of purchases, people have buyer's remorse.
Yeah, and it doesn't
Holy
have to be
crap.
about buying a house. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I moved in here, I was a bit dazed. What have I done? But it can happen as go out for a meal. I got to tell you, most of the time, what's on other people's plates looks better than what's on mine, and I have a lot of remorse that I ordered the wrong thing. So absolutely, our brain keeps spinning, wondering like, did I do the right thing? So we want to make sure that the buyer looks good, that the investor looks good, and that they're not there wondering. We're going to fill their brain with what happens next, so that they're not going to dwell there.
I love that. In the book, you have the 6
Gino,
steps.
can we get some examples of that first? I just love to hear from Donna, like what that looks like in real practice.
Well, having a relationship with the customer. So that's where my orchestrated onboarding framework comes in. And what I like to do, in the world of technology, in the world of software, what happens is the deal closes and people get very busy doing these software implementations and get involved with data migrations and APIs connecting and all this very technical stuff, which just overwhelms people. So I recommend we slow down and build a relationship first. And that is about talking about, hey, what are your goals? Or, hey, this is what we learned your goals are from the sales team. Let's validate those. Build that success plan we talked about. Talk about how we're going to work together. So some of that kind of meta relationship stuff first. Focus on the big picture, the plan, the journey ahead. Where I like to use visuals, really calms people down. And then you can start diving into the weeds. So for example, when I bought my house, it would have been great if my real estate agents said, hey, here's our timeline. Here's the milestones.
That's what I was going to say.
Here's all the things we're going to need from you. Why don't you start collecting that information? Like about 7 years ago, I remodeled my house, and the contractor who is a friend, whether that was a good thing or a bad thing, he would call us Sunday night and say, right, tomorrow we need, to have paint colors and door handles and this and that. And we were like, John, like, why didn't you tell us that on Friday? We had all weekend.
I love the way you work here, John. You may work like this, but we're having family
everything,
dinner. Go screw yourself, all right?
Yeah, everything was a last minute panic.
He expects you to drop everything. This is the thing. Contractors are worse. They just are clueless. I'm going to tell you right now, contractors, you suck. Realtors, you suck too. ADP, you suck. That's a whole other story. So here's my great
Solar
example
panel
for you.
vendors too.
Yeah. So if you would have got a visual timeline from your realtor saying, Donna, you made a great choice by going with us. Here's what it's going to look like going forward.
A
Bing,
welcome
bam, boom.
email.
Yep.
A welcome email is great.
And reassuring that they made the right choice. Because sometimes just
Yes.
telling people, hey, Donna, you made a great choice. Here's what the next steps are going to look like. You've probably been, oh, I'm in good hands. I
Yeah,
can chill now.
exactly.
Otherwise,
Versus
your
just sitting
brain's going
around
hamster wheel
worrying.
going, the solar company's stealing from me.
And then, but
Exactly.
Jake, let's take it one step further. Would have been nice for the realtor to say, "Hey, by the way, here's a plumber that I recommend. Here's an electrician that I
I
recommend.
gotta tell
Here's a
you,
here's a
Have you ever had a
landscaper that I
shitty
gotta
contractor that
This
emails you
real
on Sunday
estate
nights?
agent,
I got the
we-
guy for you. He's not going to do that, right?
Yeah.
this real estate agent, we closed the deal and we haven't heard a word from her. Here we moved to a whole new neighborhood, no resources, no
No,
Yes.
nothing.
no bottle
I
of
will
wine
never
with
recommend
little
her.
cheese and grapes.
That exactly. So wait, time out. That's the important thing. What did Donna just say? She's not going to recommend that person. She's not going to leave a 5-star review. She may go down and leave a 1-star review on top of that. And this person's a veteran. They should know better. They should
Let's
have
roast
at
her
least.
right now, Donna. What's her name?
Listen,
I'm not
Donna, this is
going
what she
there.
should have had. She should, because let's bring this into the investor. If I'm an investor and I'm trying to onboard investors, trying to sell a deal, you should at least have a credibility book, first of all, of how I'm going to sell houses, how I sell houses, and how I have team members, and how the process is going to be smooth with me, and how I'm going to provide you value.
And so what you want to do is you show them that you've done this before and you
Mhm.
have a methodology, that's a big word,
Yes.
methodology of best practices. And so they can relax knowing that they're in good hands, not feeling like, oh, this is the first time you've done this.
And then,
So-
by the way, also let me see the hundreds of reviews that you have on Zillow or on Google, and let them see that as well. And maybe would you like to speak to one or two of my previous clients that had this relationship?
I think a lot of those reviews and the portfolio are good during the buyer journey
Mhm.
when people are making a decision. But after the buyer journey goes,
yes. Yeah.
afterwards, then you need to build that trust that they
Mhm.
that you're in good hands, so their brains don't spin.
Basically,
on
we've
fear
all
and
gone
doubt.
through these shitty relationships with people.
Jake,
we
can
just
I
want
just-
peace of mind, right?
Yeah, can I add to that?
Yeah.
What happens, the way that our brains work is that we dwell in fear and doubt.
Yeah.
And what we do is we scan the environment to go, am I safe or am I in danger? These are like the primitive parts of our brain. And it's often very subconscious. I don't choose to go, oh, I'm gonna dwell in fear and doubt today. We don't choose that. And so then when we meet somebody new, we go, are they friend or foe? Am I safe or am I in danger? And so we do these judgments, and first impressions are very quick, but we tend to stick with them. So whatever our first impression is, then we'll continue to have that kind of unconscious bias around that experience. So if it's a great initial experience, so for example, if we went forward with that solar vendor because they left me in the dark, I might have always been a bit wary and kind of not fully trust them because of the way we started. But if you start well, then people will give you the benefit of the doubt even when things don't run smoothly, because stuff happens.
That's excellent. I love that. Let's go through the 6 steps. Okay, I want everyone to write these down because these are important. The first one is embark. The second one is the handoff. Then the kickoff. Then the adopt. Then the review. And finally expand. So let's start from the very beginning. Let's take Jake through the process of potentially a good company like ADP possibly could have been to Jake. So let's walk Jake through that thing and that whole journey.
ADP was not good.
And let's let him make him feel better. Let's make this the new.
Well,
relationship.
first of all, this is like it's the whole framework is like a double infinity symbol. The idea is that it keeps going, and and I actually want to start with the last stage, expand, because growth happens with your existing customers. When they have that trust there,
Yes.
they're the ones who are going to stick around and buy more. So those investors that have done business with you, they're going to want to do more business with you if they have a good experience. So it's really important that you explore how you're going to engage your existing customers, how you're going to get them to the next level, drive them into more usage, drive them into deeper relationships, drive them into more value. So that's a really important way to engage your installed customer base. But at the beginning, we start with the embark, and that's what I was talking about, that big picture relationship. and where you don't dive into the weeds, or you don't just leave them hanging. You help them understand the journey ahead. And then in the handoff stage, if you have a sales team and then a post-sales team, that's where you want to do some formal handovers. I like to have an internal handover so that the customer-facing teams know what's happening and know who was sold to and why, and then also get that alignment on the customer team. And then we have the kickoff, and especially if you're starting a big project together, then that's where you start going into the kind of tactical, technical weeds, the timelines, the tasks, the ownership, the due dates, all that. And then we have the adopt. And so if you're adopting a solution, that would be getting that solution to go live and getting your users enabled on it. And then, hey, you check in and go, hey, how's it going? And that's going to help you know. So, for example, we were talking about those tenants with the leaky faucets. Maybe the property managers might have a 30-day review meeting with all tenants to check in. How's it going? Here's our checklist. Let's go through everything's working properly. Let's make sure you know how to resolve issues that come up and know who to contact. And some companies I'm working with, they have software now where it connects the owners, the property managers, the supervisors, and the tenants, and they're like building a community. So it's not that you just live in an apartment now. You're on this app on your phone where you can connect with tenants, and maybe they have happy hours, and now you can even build a community and make friends, which is really going to keep you sticking around and not just moving on. And then we go back to that expand stage that I started with, where you're investing in your existing customers, like with building a community.
Can we just walk through real quick those 6 steps for, let's say I'm a property management company, or I own an apartment complex. Let's walk through those 6 steps of as if we call them residents. So I'm a resident and I'm going to rent this apartment from Jake. What would that process look like for us?
And so who would be working with the person like before, like when they're looking to buy, and when then they've signed a lease? Would there be different people?
Jake, you can take this over. I want you to walk them through what our process.
There would be a leasing agent or a assistant manager, and probably throughout most of the relationship, those would be the people that you'd be working with, and occasionally the property manager. But
yeah, I think. Yeah. So then, what would be helpful is during the buyer journey. So while if I'm somebody looking to rent an apartment, it's good to know, like, here's the journey. But even before I sign, once you sign, then these are the 3 things we're going to do. Or this is how we support you as a resident. So that's a good thing. The embark stage starts during the buyer journey so that people can see the journey ahead. Mm-hmm. And then there may not be a handoff, but what I do is I have like a kickoff meeting because I'm the sales rep and the delivery person.
Do you prefer that?
Do
you see better success when that person is one and the same without the handoff?
You know what? It doesn't matter. So people ask me like, how we can't have too many handoffs. I said, it doesn't matter. It's how you handle them. So for example, I was on the phone with a bank that shall not be named, and I was.
She's so good, Gino. She should just be like roasting them all. But you have the platform, Donna. Get them.
You're not named, that's for sure.
And I got transferred 7 times, and every single time I got transferred, what's your name? What's your account number? What's your problem?
That's the thing, though. Like, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, by the 5th time, I was swearing and screaming at them, and they turned me into a person I don't want to be, And if all they did was they said, you know what, we need to transfer you to tier 3, and they said, hey, Donna, we understand this is your problem. We're working on it. Then I would have felt taken care of. So it's not how many handoffs or handovers you have; it's how you handle them. Telling people, this is why I'm going to introduce you to Gino. Gino's going to handle this. This is why you're, engaging with Gino now. Then Gino's transferring you to Jake. Jake's, you're in good hands. And that Jake's not going, what'd you buy? Why are you here? Jake knows who I am and what my needs are.
I think that just takes a higher level of execution and team, and that's harder to reproduce and manage on a consistent level.
Well, it takes communication across the customer team, across the teams, and everyone's in such a hurry that they're not.
Yeah,
it's a little. Look, let me tell you, I was working with a company where the head of sales, the chief revenue officers.
Not saying it can't be done. Just saying, I think
Well,
it's going to potentially lead to more problems.
Well, let me tell you. This chief revenue officer, the head of sales, said, "Time kills all deals. Don't talk to any of my customers about this onboarding journey. I got to close deals." And the reality was
Well,
that there were
he's a dick though, so I can tell you already.
well, he's no longer at that company.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, so what was happening that the sales reps were having to come back in because there were so many problems. The deals were closed so quickly. They were calling them resales. They'd have to come back in. They'd have to bring the buyer back in. They had to rewrite contracts, and that was costing them $500,000 a year in
That's a
time,
people
labor,
problem, though.
and opportunity costs.
Yeah.
But that's when, people are trying to move so fast. So slow
Yeah.
down and let's just say, hey, who's got the ball? Where have we been? Where are we? Where we're going? And little things like that. It could take 20 minutes. It's not a big deal.
But Donna, this has something I want to continue over with the kickoff, but this has something with the company culture as well, because the company culture has to play into this. Because if you're focused on customer service, your head of sales is not worried about just getting people over the line, because there's going to be a lot of kickback, a lot of kick rate, and he's creating a lot of work for the rest of his team members. So if there was culture
Exactly.
there and worrying about customer service and integrity, then I think that there'd be the difference. I think it has to start at the top and it has to start with the core values
Absolutely.
and the culture. But talk about, so we got the handoff, now we got the kickoff. You said kickoff is where it's tactical and
Yeah, that's when you start giving timelines, like maybe with you have a new tenant, a new resident, here's how you're going to do your payments. Here's how you're going to, if you need any support, this is how you contact the supervisor, the property management team. Here's where you get your mail. It's like it's the details.
And then adopt is the solution. They actually go.
Yeah, the
into
adopt.
the
I mean, I would see for our residents, I wouldn't say that would be so much. It might be like during the adopt stage, you get a tour of the complex and you know where everything is, so you're not left trying to figure all that out yourself. Maybe during the adopt stage, if every Friday there's a happy hour where it's a meet and greet, and you introduce the new residents. That would be a great way.
It's like the hotels that do the happy hour, like from like 4 to 5 or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you get to meet and greet, and then the review is like checking in, maybe 30 days after they moved in, maybe 90 days, and how's it going? What can we do?
And then you have the expand, which is, like you said, very at the beginning, you're trying to engage existing customers,
Yeah.
trying to make sure you're creating a good community, because one of our biggest, expenses is tenant turnover. If you're,
Yeah.
every year between 20 and 30% on average, some companies as much as 50% residents do not re-up. They're going out and moving out. So if you can cut that down with an onboarding process, that may save you tens of thousands of dollars.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It costs way more to get a new tenant, to get a new customer, than it does to keep them. So put some love and care into your existing customers. Might cost you some money, but it's a huge return on your investment, because you're going to spend a lot less by always having to look for new residents.
Before we go to the short answers, writing a book is a lot of work. What made you write this book? Was there one company like an ADP out there, or a company that you just did not like, and you're like, I need to write this for this entity? You don't have to name the entity, Jake. We don't have to know who it is, Jake. Because there's a ton of work in here. And this, if anyone listening to the show right now implements and adopts what's in this book, you'll have a much better customer onboarding. You'll have a much better customer experience, customer journey. You will have a much better retention of sales. What made you write this book?
And higher lifetime value. So that means
Yes.
that if they stick around longer, they're going to pay you much more. You want to know, like, what's the lifetime value of your average customer and how can you increase that? Well, you know what? I saw a gap in the market. I saw that nobody was talking about the beginning of the relationships in the world of software, which is usually subscriptions. They're all talking about the renewal. And it was like so obvious to me. Like, of course, if you engage and connect and deliver value at the beginning of the relationship, then that renewal is a no-brainer. And if they're all leaving, I mean, one company I worked with, we calculated that their customers need to stick around for 18 months for them to pay off that customer acquisition costs. And that was when most customers started churning, was 18 months. So they might be bringing in, this company is bringing in dozens of new customers every day, but most of them are leaving before they even break even. I mean that so they might be going woohoo new customers, but they're losing money. I mean they're not the companies aren't even aware of this. So I saw a big blind spot in the market, and it was so obvious to me, and no one else was talking about it. So I felt I needed to talk about it.
Well, it's one of those things, though, isn't it? That it's not a sexy topic. Oh, customer onboarding. It's something like everyone wants. It's like in our business, everyone wants to
I think
buy
it's
the
very
asset.
sexy.
Everyone wants to buy the asset. Everyone wants to finance the asset, but nobody wants to talk about managing the asset. That's
Oh
that.
yeah, yeah.
That's the not attractive part.
Yeah,
And
it's
for us,
sexy to sell the deal. It's sexy to, to ring the
yes,
bell, but
yes.
you just want the customers to kind of just, okay, great, just figure
Let's
it
not do
out.
any work now. We just did all this work. We're done with you now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find it very sexy. I think it's an exciting area. And to be honest, when I first started doing this 7 years ago, this month is my anniversary, my 7th anniversary of doing my business, and I just thought this it seems so obvious and a huge need for me, and people weren't really talking about it. And now there's there's onboarding teams, there are onboarding software tools, so it's really has gained traction. It's really a big area now.
Very cool. All right, gang, let's take a quick time out here from our sponsor. A question Gino and I get a lot is, what's a great value add?
You've just closed a deal and you're looking for a way to maximize the attractiveness of your complex to potential renters.
At Rand Property Management, we start at the bottom. Literally, we start with the flooring.
And that means we start with a call to Christian Chapman and his team at David's Abbey Carpet and Flooring. No one wants to deal with the expense and hassle of putting in new floors, and that is exactly why we turned to David's Abbey.
David's Abbey Carpet and Flooring provides a quality, long-lasting product at a great price. The wear layer and waterproofing that comes standard with all David Abbey products will ensure you are on solid ground for years to come.
My favorite part of working with Christian and his team is convenience. David's Abbey will direct ship their product to anywhere in the U.S. That's white glove service, folks.
And your installation team will love how easy it is to install. The next time that you're looking for a great value add, give our friends at David's Abbey Carpet and Flooring a call and speak with Christian.
Or click the link in the show notes to visit their website today.
All right, we are back. Yeah, and to your last point there, we've been pushing our property management software company to create more of a customer journey experience. We've actually had to go outside of their platform and implement some tools ourselves to get the experience for our customers that we wanted. So hopefully in the future they get there, but it's a big need for sure. One thing I wanted to comment on is, as you were going through the different stages, I couldn't help but think, wow, this is very similar to what you should also be doing for team members. The experience of the people that are actually on your team. Do you ever talk about that, or do you have any opinions on that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a friend of mine just joined a very large tech company, which shall not be named, as a high level position, and she said the employee onboarding was awful. So you hired the brightest and the best, right? And then you just leave them to fend for themselves. And in the similar way that you're looking to deliver trust, provide trust, build a trusting relationship, define accountability, deliver value. You want that new employee to deliver value to the company as quickly as possible. Oftentimes, especially like with sales reps, they come on board and it takes them 6 months to start really selling. So the faster you can get them to value, to being accountable and making a difference at the company, the more money you're making. So creating that journey ahead, here's the 90-day journey of what you need to do. That first month is probably training, getting all your technology stuff. You want to get them connected. You might assign them a mentor, but let them know the journey ahead and what is expected of them. So they're not just sitting there. I mean, I've been there sitting in my cube on my own, like, I don't know what I should be doing. Don't ask anyone. Don't make a fuss. Help them be successful. Tell them what success means.
Well, because you also brought up the costs associated with losing customers, but if you look at it from the employee side, it's huge because you're saying a
Huge.
sales rep isn't even doing anything for 6 months, and then they're going to leave within 2 years if they don't
Yeah,
feel like it's a good fit. And a lot of them do, right? So, what do you get? 6 months of productivity out of a 24-month
yeah.
relationship? That's awful.
That's a good. It is
That
awful.
I mean, that you want to talk about a losing proposition? That's not good. So I think I have your next book for you right here about
Yeah, thank you.
the employee journey, right? So we'll knock that one out. So if someone doesn't really have a customer journey, and I know you've gone through the steps, what would be the best place to start? What is the number one thing? Because we don't want to get overwhelmed, but if they were to do one thing to start that journey, what would you recommend?
Well, just I would just take a piece of paper and a pen and just write down what are some of the key milestones that need to happen, in the next, I would say 3 to 6 months. Write it down, and I like to use active present tense verbs to define each stage of the journey. So, for example, when I work with companies. I leveraged my orchestrated onboarding framework, and I created my fast track framework, which is how I work with companies as a consultant. And I have a kickoff, I'll see if I can remember a kickoff, define, design, deploy, execute, that kind of thing. And it's just defining some simple, 2 syllable words, that 1 to 2 syllable words that define kind of where we're going, and that feel aspirational to you and your customers, that relate. A lot of companies I work with, they use words that are very internal focused, that are meaningless to the customers, but kind of help them see that we're on the journey ahead.
Mm. One thing that just came to mind would be potentially surveying your current customer base in terms of where you could have improved during the onboarding process, because clearly you would have had some feedback for a few of the groups that you've
Yeah,
worked with
absolutely,
recently.
Jake.
So that may be an opportunity for you to find the holes in your current process as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I love listening to customers and finding out what worked, what didn't work, and tell and have them share with me great experiences, because they're having great experiences all over the place. There's
Mhm.
been a consumer revolution in the last 10 plus years where, we talked about it earlier, we have that transparency. I order things from, online, I get handwritten cards thanking me for the business, and in the world of business to business, B2B, we have a lot to learn about building those relationships and trust, and customer service, that the in the world of business to consumer, they know they need to do to win our hearts and minds.
Yeah. And don't think for a second that you won't have a few customers out there that will tell you everything that they think you need to do. And it's valuable feedback. We got a move-in survey over the weekend where a resident was complaining about the dust on top of the water heater in their closet. And some of the team was like, "Well, it's a little nitpick." I'm like, "Hey, look, we could do better. That's something that we can take care of and get it cleaned up." So I know sometimes it's not easy, but those are opportunities for you to outperform and leave your competition in the
Hmm.
dust. So I think seize the moment when you hear things like that.
Absolutely.
Any book recommendations that you want to throw out there that have added value to your life that you want to share with folks?
Well, on the listening side, so I'm a big fan of listening. So before you go off and design this journey, add listen to what's important to your customers. And there's a couple books by Warren Berger. The first is A More Beautiful Question, and then the second one I'm reading, which is I think it's just called Beautiful Questions. I'm reading that right now, but it's all about the art
So
of
do you read
listening.
the beautiful question or the more beautiful question first? There's got to be some
I
kind of
think the
order to this.
first one is A More Beautiful Question.
Okay. Interesting. I would have thought the
Yeah.
opposite.
Yeah, and I can send you the right names. But Warren Berger is the author, and it really helped me to see that that a lot of the value that I provide companies is not having the answers, but by asking the right questions. And so that's how you're gonna deliver more and more value, because expectations are changing. Like we were talking, people want community, they want more transparency. So by listening and asking questions, you're going to be able to deliver what people want and need when they want and need it.
Very cool. For folks that are ready to take the next step, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you so you can help ask the right questions in their business and maybe get their customer journey created?
Absolutely. So my website is donnaweber.com. That's two N's and one B. Weber like the grill.
Like the grill.
The
No
gas Weber.
relation.
No relation. She's not getting any royalties off that one. Gino, you're up, big dog.
I think, Jake, to recap this podcast, as I'm listening, unfortunately, we haven't really heard many great companies that deliver great customer onboarding. So there's a lot of work for a lot of companies out there. I know there are. I mean, Jake, you love Chick-fil-A. You love those milkshakes. Their customer journey, the customer experience is really good. There's other companies out there, I'm assuming like Apple, let's say, for instance. And it needs a lot of work. And I think the problem is that when we're looking at our product, we're internalizing it, and we think that the customer should know what the customer's got to do. Well, obviously, turn the computer on, go to Canva, start designing. But as customers, we have that buyer's remorse. And as Donna said, it's 80% of buyer's remorse. Jake, your filet mignon looks better than my surf and turf over here, bro. I want your food. What happened? You want to switch? And that's what ends up happening. You don't want to leave the customer in the lurch. And I love talking about this because I wish I had known this 15, 20 years ago when I had the restaurant, because I would have served my customers better. I would have created more value. I would have had more engaged customers and employees, and I would have been able to scale my business, because this is an important component, an important system to retain. And then ultimately what you're trying to do is to create those super fans with the expand portion. And then you're retaining the customers and you're selling more to your customers that are there. And those super fans become advocates of your brand and they sell even more. So this is really something where if anybody has any kind of business, whether you're in property management, whether you're an asset manager, whether you're an investor, whatever you are, you need to start creating a customer journey to start onboarding and start expanding your customer base.
Absolutely.
Well said, G Daddy. Gang, as always, we believe in buying deals for the long term. Think in decades. I'm Jake. He's the G Daddy, and we make it happen. We'll see you next time.